All right, Edwin, Tengbo, thanks for being here today. State of play. Articulate has raised its first round of funding in 2021, its first and only round of funding after 20 years of being bootstrapped. You guys raised at a $3.75 billion valuation. Give us an idea of how large you are today. Where is your ARR?
Yeah, of course. So when we did our institutional round, we were roughly about $100 million in ARR. And we've grown that now to over 300 million. And we're on a path to $500 million in the hopefully near future.
In the near future. So take us a step back, Tengbo, because I think bootstrapped businesses are really fascinating, right? They're a little bit hard to find because by definition, they've never taken capital. What brought the two of you together?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say just as background, ICONIQ is a multi-stage fund. We've invested in about 170 companies over the last decade plus. We're fortunate to be investors in great venture-backed businesses like Anthropic, Datadog, Snowflake, but we've been also very fortunate to work with a number of exceptional bootstrapped or historically bootstrapped businesses like Articulate. And there was a period in our history early on where many of our investments were actually companies that had never taken a dime of institutional capital. And every bootstrap company is very different. You could say the same about venture-backed businesses, but bootstrap companies tend not to be based in Silicon Valley and other tech centers. Articulate happened to be one of the first companies to be remote and fully distributed, even well before the pandemic. So it was just a very different DNA, and we had gotten to know the founder, Adam Schwartz, over many years, actually dating back to over a decade before we actually made the investment. And we realized that Adam, the founder of the business, was a very special entrepreneur in the sense that he had a vision to transform corporate learning and recognize there was a gap in the market for the solution that Articulate provides, which is corporate course authoring solutions via software. And just recognize an exceptional entrepreneur, someone who had bootstrapped the business, gotten it to meaningful scale without having taken any outside capital, built a lot of customer love. It was one of the highest NPS products we had ever seen. And as a result of that, cultivated the relationship, and we're very fortunate to make the investment 5 years ago with a couple of other investment partners, but just an incredible entrepreneurial story.
How'd you try to invest in Articulate before the 5-year mark? Was there like a courting period previous to that?
There absolutely was. I think we called Adam every single year, maybe every quarter of every single year, begging him to take our capital for a long period of time. And that's the unique thing about bootstrap founders is they often are very averse to venture investors, to private equity investors. They'd rather be heads down building their business and driving that customer adoption, building the industry sort of awareness and market leadership and all these sorts of things, which is exactly what Adam was focused on for 15 to 20 years before he even really thought about taking on capital. So we begged and begged, and eventually it worked out.
So ICONIQ's profile hadn't changed in those 5 years, right? So what changed in the broader market for Articulate that you guys decided after this long courting period that in 2021, now was the moment to take that 1.5 billion in capital for the first time?
Yeah, so it was really around, as Tengbo said, Adam built a business that was extremely successful in finding product market fit for a very specific user persona, and then created a viral community around that and grew the business to, let's say, $100 million in ARR. But there's a point where what we started to find is that there were more and more customers that were doing different type of things with our product. Right? So where typically the initial, call it, user one, that a lot of learning and development training, there's a lot of customers that started to use our product for revenue training, sales enablement, product launches. And moving from a bootstrap business that's primarily product-led growth to becoming a business that is multi-product, that goes after multiple different audiences in a different sales motion, requires that you have investors, advisors on board who have the experience to guide you through that process. So it was really a point of how can you scale faster? And how can you capture the opportunity that's in front of us? And the reality is that to get investors excited and invested in your business, you need to give them a piece of the pie to invest in it. Otherwise, there's not a lot of meaning in that relationship. So that triggered the decision to do our institutional round back in 2021. And since then, we have expanded the business. We moved from a full product-led growth business to a sales-led growth business, focused on expanding our product portfolio. Obviously, during that time, AI became more profound, and we went through another transformation of moving from a SaaS business to like an AI business that has AI throughout its entire offering. And that's really the foundation for the future growth trajectory.
Yeah.
So that's the why, and I think it was a really good decision to do this together with investors that are as passionate about the business as we are.
So I want to come back to this AI point later, because you're in such a fascinating space of workforce development, and that's huge at the moment when we're talking about where the jobs are. But for the moment, I also want to talk about 2021, that particular year, because we were seeing a lot of folks raising massive rounds at the time. And when one firm raises, it tends to also trigger fundraising across the landscape. Was there any competitive pressure as well in 2021 to fundraise to stay ahead of competition?
I think our answer is going to be different from Tengbo's answer. 2021 was a really good year, obviously, for businesses, for founders to raise money. We still believe that our investors got in at a discount. I mean, they may have a different view on that right now relative to 2021. But we were in a very fortunate position that we had a business that's growing really fast. It's been profitable from day one. Had a tremendous adjacent opportunity that wasn't just a promise, but we were actually executing on that. So it was a very easy business to understand and to get your head around of how this would work and how, more capacity would get us to faster growth. And we're in a fortunate position that we had choice on which investors to work with.
I would say in addition to that, we felt at the time in 2021, and we still feel today, that Articulate was and is the market leader in what they do. They've had the fortune of building the best product in the market, and as a result of that, organically took share from several legacy products in that space that have been around for several decades, haven't transformed their products in the way that Articulate has over that period of time. And
what kind of legacy products are we talking about?
One is owned by a large public company. There are some that are more traditional software solutions that are not updated on a regular basis like Articulate has been over a long period of time. And so we're talking a mix of large public company offerings as well as more niche point solutions. But it was very clear to us when we made the investment in 21 that Articulate had already been the market leader. But the concern for us collectively was not about current competition. It was really about what was going to happen in the future. And Articulate is uniquely situated at the center of workplace learning. And we know that is a attractive, compelling, lucrative place to be as a software and now AI vendor. And so, the thinking was, how do we not only be successful in this generation, but as we think to the next 10 years, how do we defend against potentially new innovators that come along? And now we are seeing AI native companies that are encroaching into this market. And to Edwin's point, we've been able to evolve as a business and transform and sort of fend off that newer competition. But that's often a good reason to raise capital is you don't need it, but in anticipation of some of these market dynamics that might change.
Right, and you guys are profitable.
Yes,
yeah.
We are.
Any plans to fundraise going forward?
No. No, look, we're in a very fortunate position that we're at the scale that the level of profitability is meaningful enough that we could just reinvest in the business and do that and keep that flywheel going. I also think that by design, we founded a business, we architected a business right from the start, was ready to scale. Right, so we have a very small team. We're running this business with less than 600 people. We're by design fully remote, no office infrastructure at all. That was not a COVID thing. That was something how we intentionally designed the organization so that we can tap into amazing talent from all different markets without being strapped to a specific office location. So there's a lot of decisions that we intentionally made that can help us scale further. So, I mean, there's no need for capital, and I think that for the investors that we have on board and the advice and the support that we get, I mean, I'm very confident that we'll get to that next milestone really fast.
Yeah. So let's go back to the AI question. Let me start with this. Give us, like, you work with some very large companies, some Fortune 500s. What kind of workplace development demands are you seeing today in this age of AI rising in demand right now? What are they asking for to be reskilled?
I might just point out that Articulate might be our only portfolio company that is in 100 of the Fortune 100. So literally 100% penetration of that cohort.
Yeah.
So you guys have a bird's eye view of that, right? Of some of the largest employers.
Yeah. Yeah, look, the world is going through a significant transformative period right now. And workflows are going to be disruptive massively. Like every organization that we talk with, every customer that we talk with is rethinking the way how work gets done and what that means for their workforces. The very short-term effect that we're seeing now, obviously, is all of the restructuring and the headcount reductions. But if you go back into history and you look at every transformation, there's waves. Right? So what we see happening in the very near-term future is that the organization of the future is going to be significantly different from what it is today. Humans are still going to be around. I mean, not saying that's truth, but that's our perspective. Humans are going to be around, and they're going to remain a critical component for companies to deliver value. And because of that, there's a perpetual and increased need for what we call expanding human intelligence for businesses to change business outcomes.
So like soft skills.
Right, and obviously artificial intelligence creates tremendous gains for productivity for companies. Our view and what we're talking with our customers about, when you have human intelligence and artificial intelligence that reinforce each other, that's where transformational gains are happening. And our products and solutions that we have been developing and that we're developing and how we're working together with our largest customers make that we're part of that journey with them as our customers transform the business for the next wave of growth.
Yeah. So are you seeing folks asking for, like some of these firms, are they looking for soft skills, like folks to become better at speaking with other human beings, speaking with AI, for example?
It's a combination, right? So soft skills are very important. I mean, but to be very honest, most of our proprietary workplace training that our customers are creating and that are and delivering is around hard business use cases. Right? So it's like when you walk into a Tory Burch store out of here and you're looking at a bag or the new product line and a sales representative talks about this product. That's intentional. That's because a product manager sales enabled that region, that market, and is helping how to get that customer excited and to purchase that product. That's the value that we see how workplace training and proprietary workplace training is moving fast. Obviously, there's a traditional learning and development side, but I do think that that's a market that has a ceiling in terms of growth. So that's how we're seeing the world evolve.
Yeah. So I want to take a step back and give kind of the other question, the kind of answer to the you are not fundraising, that very short, curt no to that no fundraising question. But you have investors, right? You have investors, you have ICONIQ, you have other major players now on the cap table. They eventually, in theory, want some of that money back, right? So what does the return profile end up looking like? How do you end up getting that capital back?
Yeah. It's something we should talk. But there's a lot of avenues over the long arc of a company's history. And what I would say is ICONIQ has never been squarely focused on this question of how do we get liquidity. There are some funds, there's some investment firms out there that are committed to their partners to have a 5-year liquidity timeframe. I invest, and then 5 years later, I need to drive liquidity to my partners. That's not the way that we operate, in large part because of our capital base. We have permanent capital. We work with investors who are very patient and think in terms of decade-long, multi-decade cycles. And so we're afforded the benefit of patience. And it's not that we need patience in this case because Articulate is growing very quickly and profitably, but we can afford to be a partner to Articulate over a much longer period of time as they go through multiple cycles, technology cycles, financial cycles, and over the long run build a very valuable company that hopefully is many multiples the scale, many multiples in terms of the product portfolio of what they have today. And so we're very hopeful around that. And when that happens, you know, you're thinking less about how do I optimize for a particular path. Multiple paths eventually avail to you, and it could be going public, it could be, you know, and some other paths out there. But there's any number of paths to liquidity for companies that are demonstrating exceptional market leadership and growth.
Yeah, and then I need to also kind of talk about the historical perspective on this, because I remember you and I were talking about this backstage, but bootstrap companies, it was much more common to see investors investing in bootstrap companies in the 2020 era. Famously, Battery Ventures, you guys, a couple of other folks were known to have, you know, suddenly a company out of nowhere would appear and it would be a $1.5 billion company, and it was incredible. But you don't really see that conversation anymore as much in this era of AI, right? Most of the deals I'm seeing crossing are these massive AI companies with zero revenue, a really interesting founder, but a very different profile from that 2020 era. What's happened?
Yeah. I would say the prediction around software eating the world has increasingly become true. And I think when we look back on the prior era, the early eras, the early part of the cloud era, there was just less software penetration in many different markets, less competition within any given vertical. And so structurally, in the 2010s, early 2010s, there was probably more opportunity to raise less capital and grow, you know, still relatively quickly and capital efficiently, because you just had fewer venture-backed competitors in most markets. And I think that equation has flipped quite a bit over the last 10 years as cloud and now AI have, in a very quick way, penetrated many pockets of the global economy. And so now you have this dynamic where in every vertical and in many, you know, what many might think of as small niches, you have 10 or 15 venture-backed competitors with AI solutions or what have you. So it has gotten harder, I think, to bootstrap, but I'm still pleasantly surprised all the time when I come across a business I've never heard of that's based outside of the technology centers, that's built massive scale and profitability without, again, $1 of institutional capital. And so those opportunities are still out there, and I think it's often in markets where there's maybe a private equity-backed incumbent that's not innovating quickly anymore. Maybe it's a public company that's stalled out in their growth and their innovation mindset. There are those sort of asymmetry market opportunities out there. And again, we're pleasantly surprised by what we've come across even in the past year. Companies operating in sort of adjacencies to data center technology that are building bootstrap companies of scale in that fast-growing market. And there's plenty of other examples, but it's still very possible in this day and age. I just think it's harder in software now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, excellent. Thank you so much to both of you for your thoughts. We're out of time. Looking forward to chatting when you guys hit mysteriously the 500 million in ARR. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.